Welcome back to the European League. We are going into our final game of Playday 5 with Game 5. Na'Vi coming up against BDS. BDS in with a real chance of staying in the top 4 here, gentlemen, but M&M creeping up behind them means Na'Vi could be doing them a favour today, Hap.
Could definitely be. Both these teams could creep up into that top 4 depending on what their score eventually will be, and that will put them into a good position with the final couple of Playdays coming up.
Yeah, Na'Vi also very, very close at this point as well. Now, I do want to get into things nice and quick, but you boys couldn't decide in the break who gets to talk about Na'Vi. So I've decided, as host, the only way this can be settled is rock, paper, scissors. So if you wouldn't mind.
All right, are you ready, Hap?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Haha!
But unlike G2, I'm not a loser. So I have my right hand. No, never mind. Okay, enough with bad skits. Well, Na'Vi have been up and down. They've been playing against teams that aren't considered the best teams in this league right now. And they have won them, so they are in the middle of the table, and that looks pretty good. The biggest thing I think for Na'Vi is just that they need to settle within the rules. They're looking much better. But it also comes back to having those little bit same worries as we used to have in the last stage, that they don't really have the gunfire to fight back with better teams. Well, today you're going up against a wild man from France called Shaiko. He can shoot, and he can shoot hard, and he has an LMG with 100 bullets, so he never runs out of them. I have a hard time seeing how they're going to stop that, so they're going to have to do that via team play. So I really hope that they have something that they can come onto the server today and show them, like, hey, we know what we're doing.
What about a Finka operator ban? So he doesn't have 100
That's how
bullets.
you counter BDS? Why didn't someone say sooner?
I mean, I mean, Shaiko was pretty much carrying against Pones. What if you take away the 100 bullets? I'm just saying, it's just this.
You are probably the smartest person knowing Siege ever.
I've ever met, full stop.
Yeah,
like, Einstein got nothing on this.
Like he has a degree in architecture, right?
It's not architecture.
It's the same thing, all of that.
You heard engineering and assume you know.
I always say it's architecture because it's...
He likes to make people think.
It's arse is what you're trying to say.
No,
I'm an architect.
It's
That's
their
actually
arch
the joke
enemy.
he's making.
Yeah.
He's trying to make a joke.
Yeah.
But.
Fantastic. To touch on Na'Vi for a quick second as well, they've had arguably the easiest run of games, right? They've played all the teams at the bottom. They've played Pones. They've played Secret. They've played Outsiders. Now they're going to start going into a run of tough games, and BDS is that first one. They've still got Wolves, Heroic, Rogue to come yet. It's looking like a rough run for them, but let's at least for today focus on their opponents here and now in BDS. Let's get them up on the screen, and this one I think is over to you, Hap, given you shamelessly lost the rock, paper, scissors.
I got cheated on, but that's all fine. Either way, BDS, the French former powerhouse. I think Wolves have taken that title at least for this stage, and they have been disappointing. You just look at their EPSs, 90, 91, 93. Then we have Shaiko with 133 and Rinshiro on 100. This is not the numbers you would normally put next to these names. Normally they would all be way over 100, but for now it's Shaiko that is really keeping them in it. And of course he gets enabled by the rest of his team. We cannot forget that. It's not just Shaiko clicking heads, but at the same time, it's also Shaiko clicking heads in ridiculous fashion, which kept them in some of these games.
It have really kept them in the games, and when we're looking at how the BDS games have gone so far, after their loss against Heroic, they said to themselves, we need to sort out something and see how we can play. Well, they went back to their old style, because in the interview after the G2 game that they won 7-5 on club, they started talking about, we have tried to come back to our old selves. And that old selves is the heavily supporting Shaiko together with team play, put him in good positions so that he can do all the work that he really needs to. That's what Bio said in the interview. And then we need to also look at how much their team play have improved. So now we'll see. I mean, they beat 7-2 Pones last Playday, and we thought Pones were looking good. I think they'll do the same to Na'Vi, or at least a somewhat equal, somewhat equal gameplay, whatever you want to call it.
The problem for me has been that game has been their only convincing game, right? Everything else has been 8-6, 7-5, wins, losses against Pones at 7-2. That's the only real convincing result we've seen so far, so it's got to continue today. Let's take a look at our map for this fixture between these two teams and see where we'll end the day on. It's going to be us going into Villa, boys. And you speak about going back to old BDS style here, Fabian. This is definitely not an old BDS map.
No, they've never really liked that one before, did they? So, yeah, but the thing is, the style doesn't have to do so much with the map. It's more about the way you approach every single defense and attack. And I think that Villa, it's not like that's any different from any other map. Like, I mean, obviously there are more maps that are slower and some are faster. This one stays somewhere in the middle.
Closing thoughts on your side, Hap?
It's not Oregon or a club where their fundamentals could truly be practiced. It's a bit in the middle, right? It's a bit more advanced, but at the same time, if you have a Freyr that is able to brute force through whatever doorway you find, you'll normally have a pretty good time at Villa. So if Shaiko is truly having one of those on days, then that might be the differentiating factor again.
I can't forget that messy first play day coming out of Na'Vi as well. That's what really needs to improve today, so them to show us that across this stage they have grown. But our game is ready. It's time to get into things. Let's throw it over to our casters, Tim and me, I guess.
Thank you very much, Des. I'm going to be ready on the assist for you when you finally make it over. He's slowly getting here any second now. But we've got a big game coming up. BDS, who have found a little bit of a resurgence recently.
Thank you, Tim.
Really starting to get a bit of momentum, Des, like you did getting across here. And they're going to be looking to carry that on. I think Na'Vi could be finding...
Tell you what, I see why it took you so long to go over here.
It's a long way.
My knees are knackered.
Little legs.
Oh. Little men, little legs. Who knew? That's a marathon in itself. Hi, we're still here, by the way. That's a marathon
look at that.
in itself.
There we are.
This is a great way of introducing things. I like to come down a little bit. Why not? Either way, we're into game. Most of you are with BDS, as I imagine. Well, most of us here in the studio as well. Na'Vi, for them, it just feels like this might be one stretch too far to take on the French juggernauts that are BDS. But on Villa, anything can happen.
It feels, to finish the point I was making, it sort of feels like a bad time to be playing BDS for me.
Yeah.
It's like, if Na'Vi played BDS 2 weeks ago...
Yeah. You mean when they hadn't just shagged Pones for free?
I think, you know, it might be, like, they could do this, but I'm not sure that that's going to be the case.
No.
No. It's definitely not the right time.
Did you like my book one earlier?
I did. Have you noticed who's just been banned?
Yeah, that's why I knew you'd said it. Yeah, I did clock that, don't worry. I'm not thinking you said it out the blue.
I don't want people sat at home going, Casters ignoring the bans.
What else? What other operators are there with good names that can fit into this sort of thing? Ace is always one, but your Ace.
The problem with Ace is... it gets very confusing for me sometimes. A couple of times on Twitter, a few people have said things about Ace, and I've like...
Is that about me?
I read it and I'm like, no, it's not me.
Someone goes, oh, there's such a good Ace, and you're like, who's imitating? Oh, hang on a minute, it's about the operator. Oh, I see. Azami banned away here by Na'Vi as well, alongside the Sledge. Two quite interesting bans coming through, and for the side of BDS, well, Mira, that one definitely expected, but the one on the front side maybe a little bit less so in the form of the Nook.
We're going to be getting into things.
I'd hope so.
BDS will kick us off on the defence, which, as we've said, Villa not always necessarily their favourite map, but that is at least a promising point for them, that they can start off on the defensive side. They're going to be taking us to Aviator Games to begin with, so nothing too funky coming out of BDS. It's going to be straight down the line. I would imagine their rotation will be AVG, Trophy Statuary, followed by Kitchen and Dining, but we're going to have to see them win the first two before we see the third choice site, I would imagine. Round one will be Aviator Games, nothing too out there on the defensive lineup. Echo about being the most unusual pick. We do see him used from time to time on Aviator Games. We've seen some powerful impacts had from the operator, not just in general, we know how good Echo is, but also specifically here on Villa as well. So maybe not a bad shout from afar.
And I think we've seen for a while, and it was interesting how it stepped out of the meta kind of as the nade meta, as it still does today, sort of reigns supreme, is Finka and Diana coming along as a combo, normally paired up with a Sledge, bringing you 6 nades, or if you don't want the Sledge, you've got the Maverick on side to still rocking 6 nades. But seeing those two big entries coming through is really quite threatening, and for those who wonder what that means, the big thing that a lot of people got frustrated with historically was that essentially you've got Iana with the ARX, which just absolutely smacks with the damage that it does, being juiced up by the Finka going into an entry engagement, giving her like 130 plus HP, gets damaged, and then gets juiced back up again by the Finka afterwards with really quick ADS time as well. It's just a really obnoxious like entry pairing to have the Finka and the Iana together. So BDS got to be at least slightly mindful of that, but knowing the headshot rate that some of these players hit, not too mindful.
That's it, not necessarily going to be too much of an impact. Now, we saw Rafal setting up inside of Statuary. I don't think he'll be playing there himself as the Echo, but it's certain that BDS will look to have some sort of impact in there and prevent Na'Vi just being able to move cleanly across this top floor. But to be honest, for the time being, that utility has pretty much been circumvented, so that's 3 reinforcements that potentially it could have been of use elsewhere that haven't really held up Na'Vi all that much. We're a minute into the round. They are past Trophy and Statuary. They're looking to take control of 90 Corridor next. The last thing they need to be aware of is the potential for a flank, but with Nath on the Nomad, there's no reason that should be happening.
Absolutely not. All pretty typical over here, working their way forwards, maybe expecting that they might walk into a C4 from below, but no one playing down there. It's a bit more cut and standard, cut and dry from BDS, really. The only one looking to be on the roam is Alems playing on the Jaeger, and it feels like Yak has got at least a sniff here that is hanging around on red down below. Of course, no C4 on side, but ideally want to catch on to him. And think about teams we've already seen earlier on today and how good they were at catching onto pinches of other players. Now they've got this little ding coming through, and in comes Alems, gets sprayed on, but did even a single shot land there? Yes, it did, but only down to about 70 HP, so he can just very comfortably back away. Na'Vi needs to be closing in on him now before he gets a freebie. Almost gets Yak, who's down to 40 HP, and that was maybe harder than it should have been, Tim.
Yes, but still gets them a good opening kill, and more than anything allows them to feel a little bit safer with there being no threat underneath. Now they're going to be fairly confident that that is the case after having cleared out Alems. They're going to use one of the Gemini decoys just to take out the Aruni laser gate, and that is going to leave us now with a position where they can start thinking about getting in through the map's door. We're going to have Nath working underneath with the vertical nades. No, sorry, it wasn't Nath, it was Skiddy underneath working on those vertical nades. They need that shield clearing out, but I think they're reasonably confident that there's nobody playing in behind it, but the problem is that it allows cover for that study-based player to be able to push back through and challenge on, which is exactly what is about to start happening if they're not careful.
I mean, I won't lie, this is looking really messy at the moment for Na'Vi. They're still finding their kills on the march through. Lasergate repopped here by Shaiko, who had an absolute tear with the ARX in their previous couple of playdays. In they come on the march. One's already stepped their way through deep as more flashes come through. Completely flashed out white screen here. Shaiko, as the plant attempt is going down here. Nathan behind the table, but can they see the man? Yes, they can. Shaiko, surely he just looks at him. Missed the man, was blind spraying and gets shut down by Nath once he's finished the plant. BDS caught completely blindsided. A 3K, a walk-in 3K for Nath. Far too easy.
A great round from Na'Vi towards the end there. Like you say, it was a little bit patchy in the middle.
Just a bit.
there was a very unusual sort of bit of disorientation for Shaiko in the midst there. He's usually got a very good handle on exactly where everybody is around him, but he just sort of got caught out. He was coming out of that flash. There was a smoke canister in front of his face. And to be honest, I think that smoke canister from, I don't know who was playing on the smoke, but I think it did more harm than good, to be honest.
Playday, yeah.
It didn't land, I don't know why I asked that question, as if it was going to be anybody else.
Right.
It didn't land on the player who was planting. It wasn't deep enough in behind maps. All it really did was, I mean, it stopped a push onto Shaiko potentially, but it just seemed to disorientate him and didn't give him the vision that he needed to be able to make the challenge onto the player behind maps desk who was planting. It was a tough one. But yeah, BDS struggling with their first defense there, and on a map that they've historically not been too keen on. That does not bode well for them.
It was just strange because, again, for Na'Vi, it looked a little bit scattered, right? 2 minutes clearing out Alems downstairs by yourself. Up nades, I hate using the word up nades. Vertical nades being used blindly with no real understanding of where the players were. I can't imagine it was really C4s, nades destined to try and get rid of utility because nothing was tickling away at shields. There was no mute jammers, for example. Maybe they got ADSs. Although, what did you see once we had frag nades being tossed through or Gon 6s being used? They were being caught out by magnets and by ADSs. So just, I think, not necessarily going through the right use of utility there, Na'Vi, yet still coming away with the round win off the back of Nath getting the plant down and a big 3K. Just again shows the potential concerns here for BDS.
Skiddy straight inside the map once again. This is pretty much the same as we saw last time from Na'Vi. Just get themselves in aggressively, work across that top floor and get themselves over to the short section of 90 corridor as quickly as possible. They're aware of the fact that Alems was playing downstairs. Nice little drawn spot there that's just going to keep a watch on the flank. It might make an appearance there. You never know. You never know.
Anytime I see something on the flat, Tim Talk. About barbed wire, Tim Talk.
They've not, I don't think I can make a tip out of barbed wire on stairs.
I reckon you could if you really tried.
They've not spotted anybody out on the downstairs yet, so Na'Vi happy to continue pushing across this top floor. Just not really playing into main stairs at all, or study side.
No need just yet. Chosen the alternative path here of trying to push in from the top side of things. That could get rid of quite a bit of utility. Those ADSs and that magnet. No, okay, gets the magnet, but not the ADSs, and gets the shield over the top. Okay.
It's going to do at least part of its job there. There'll be a second one coming in looking for the ADSs. He's gone the wrong way. He goes back and finds them. Gets away with that one. Shaiko says, no, you're not having them. I'm going to take them out.
You don't get points. They're mine. It feels so petty almost, but away they go regardless. And now Blur still coming in trying to do more damage here on the way through. The Yokai being saved and moved away. As it goes off inside a site again, just more pressure coming in. At least this time round, Tim, they've done it in the right order. And Shaiko just found for free by Blur. Not sure why he's peeking that.
Just seemed to be a little bit out of position in sight. Obviously, he'd missed a couple of shots on the Rotero drones and then steps across the maps and, like you said, just really overextends and is punished for it. I guess he didn't know that they'd been quite so aggressive in getting themselves right onto the doorway. But Skiddy's going to double down. He's going to find one onto Renshiro, and that now leaves us in a 5 versus 3. And once again, Aviator Games is not looking good for BDS here. Lems is trying to play out of the vault, but
Smoke misses.
he's going to be able to get in behind and start putting that diffuser down. He's going to have to drop away. He takes a lot of damage there. Does manage to escape Nith. He's going to have to come back for attempt number 2, though.
There is still another smoke in Breday's back pocket here. Steps up and finds a kill as well. That's exactly what you want to see from your support player. He's going to be dead. Oh, but the assist coming in as well. Held on the door, puts the smoke in the dirt, and now it's panic stations for BDS. No doubt they get one blast through, but down to the last 10 seconds. Rafal has got to do it all entirely by himself. Nath holding down F here for dear life as it comes down to a 1v3. Rafal finds one, but it's a comfortable closeout for Na'Vi in much more convincing fashion.
What a great start for Na'Vi so far. 2 attacks onto Aviator Games and 2 wins. They find themselves 2-0 on the scoreboard, but more importantly, a good start on the attack. As attackers on Villa, you'd be looking for at least 2-3 rounds being a good half, and Na'Vi are already well on the way. We're going to see BDS as the defenders choose to move the site. Not too much of a surprise, because quite honestly, Des, they have not even looked competitive in those first 2 rounds.
No, I've really enjoyed Na'Vi's use of flashes as well across both rounds. Think of how many white screens we've seen on the push-in, right? It kind of feels like, okay, clear out laser gates, clear ADSs, clear shields, toss a bunch of flashes in, and then we go in for the plant whilst everyone's white screened. And sure, Breday did slow things down, at least temporarily in that round, with much better play smokes to stop the player behind the vault door. But again, Na'Vi just felt comfortable, not largely challenged here, and it's almost like BDS is sitting still and waiting to be beaten.
I mean, the thing is, it is quite BDS, really. You know, they are a static team. They do play, you know, for example, Church and Arsenal on Clubhouse, a site where 90% of teams will send players off to the 2nd and 3rd floor. They will get up there, out into the map, and try to waste time. BDS quite often will not. They'll just turtle up and sit on site with nothing else going on around the map. So it's not unusual for them, but it's certainly costing them.
One of those. Well, let's see if they can correct things here as we move away from the site and instead move up towards Trophy and Statuary. Triple reinforced wall coming through onto the bedroom wall with a Kaid on side just screams they want to deny this one away. They don't want to extend in towards bedroom like some teams will do with a castle, for example, and at least one of those panels being left soft. And here they want to try and get control on the downstairs, try and make use of those vertical nades, which will mean forcing away Alems and Rafal, who lurk downstairs.
There is more of a presence out in the map from BDS, but Alems didn't really manage too much success from it in round 1. Let's see if Rafal can have a better attempt this time. A lot of utility being thrown into Master at the minute from Na'Vi as they try to get themselves established in there, whilst BDS try to hold on to concrete with all their might. Out goes the electrical, should be successful, does manage to burn away the first set of Kairos pellets that are on the wall. The explosion at the top, I think, was an attempt at an impact trick at the same time, probably coming in from Renshiro, but unnecessary as the electrical managed to pick it up, but better safe than sorry.
They've got a couple of magnets stashed above the top of that wall as well, just to catch anything that might come over the top, so it could work out quite
Could have been an
wonderfully.
aid, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. They've got magnets now scattered across the top of the wall in case anything else does follow over the top, just to try and keep it doubly closed at this point.
Couldn't have been an aid, none have been thrown.
No.
It must have been an impact nade from Renshiro. It's the only explosives missing.
Here, nades coming in through to the back. It's Breday to start off the firing here, start off the killing as he brings down one. Immediate trade from Yak coming onto Renshiro. Leaves things in a comfortable, for now, at least 4 versus 4.
BDS, again, just looking to hold on. We've got a man underneath for Na'Vi, just looking to work his way through. I don't know if Rafal is still playing downstairs. The Nitro is gone, so he is actually still underneath at the minute. He will likely have shotguns, so can still impact from underneath. Not in a literal sense, as the Nitro is gone, but he will be able to open up the floor and the angles needed to be able to challenge if necessary. But it just looks like Na'Vi's attack has gone on pause for a moment as they are waiting to deal with hit those players from underneath. They tried to, but Alems is going to come out on top and find one onto Nate. Does he know that there's somebody on the window? I'm guessing that he will. He might even be trying to bait this out, but no, the man goes up to the rooftop. That could have been a beautiful play if Alems managed to just bait him into having a little look, and Rafal gets the kill. You would have been laughing if you were BDS, but 4 versus 3, 28 seconds left to go. Work to be done for Na'Vi.
They look like they're stalled out here about that halfway mark. They knew there was a player in Astro stairs and were like, okay, well, where to from now? Rotated around a couple of players, got drones in, flashes came through. They needed to win that 1 versus 1 to really get control of Astro. Because look now, it's looking ugly. There's a shotgun in hand, immediate kill coming through, a comfortable closeout for BDS, who finally get themselves on the board.
Feels like BDS woke up a little bit that round, as you say, get themselves the first one on the board, but just felt much more competitive than they did on Aviator Games. They were able to play the game they wanted to underneath, for example. Alems and Rafal able to live out the entire round down there if they so chose. It wasn't a case of Na'Vi being able to just track them down and get the kills like they did in round 1. So not terrible from BDS. It's going to lead them going to dining room and kitchen, so they're going to be holding on to similar areas of the map. For them, not the end of the world. They can just sort of rinse and repeat the success that they've just had at least. Rafal's going to switch over onto the Pulse, an operator that we commonly see here, can feed in so much information about that top floor clearance.
It's quite funny because I think back to Trophy and Statuary being the site between Na'Vi and Secret on Playday 1 as being where things often went wrong. You'd have 2 or 3 players trying to funnel in through Trophy Door and just find themselves being shotgunned to high heaven. It was not pretty gameplay in the slightest. And it's almost here like Na'Vi said, okay, well, let's forget about trying to do that again. Let's try and work our way through Master instead. But they never really had control, right? They had no control of downstairs. They had no control of Astro. They barely got bathroom and 1 or 2 players starting to poke around bedroom. They just didn't get enough actual map control to make anything really happen in that round, I think. And BDS were just very happy to hold them pinned back in towards these kind of bottlenecks around the map. So good stuff from BDS. Na'Vi really need to be finding more control here. This round might play out much the same because they do need that same control up on the top floor in order to find themselves able to do a little bit of work on the vertical. They have got 6 breaching charges, so they do have the ability to open up that floor and start looking down below. And the IQ could play a pretty big part in going pulse hunting.
At least one player for BDS up on the top floor. I think it was Alems who was up there. I'm not sure. Rafal's down in sight this time, along with Shaiko and Renshiro, I think, at the least, or Shaiko and Brede I saw down there. So, yes, there's 3 ahead of us, 2 upstairs. So I think it's Renshiro and Alems that are going to be playing off upstairs. We'll see whether they can have any real impact, as at the minute Na'Vi are looking more towards a direct sort of push in towards Pantry, get the wall open, put the pressure on Shaiko. It may well be that they don't go immediately for the top floor clearance, but Yak is up there and does have diffuser in hand, so just need to be cautious about that.
I think the barricades that have been dropped throughout as well make this a little bit harder, but at least they know exactly what it is they're looking to play into. If it just means that for the defenders of BDS, they'll know as soon as the barricades start getting shot out or put through, they have an idea what's going on. And now they know there's a drone there, they definitely know someone's going to try and push their way through here, and Skiddy strikes first. Down goes Renshiro, unable to hold off the aggressor.
Good entry from Na'Vi, something that they've been successful on 3 out of 4 rounds so far, just giving themselves the advantage over and over. The Nitro trying to be guided in by the pulse of Rafal there, will not find its mark. Skiddy takes a bit of damage, Nath as well, but Na'Vi have pretty comfortably got that top floor control. Blur shuts down Alems just to really nail that on, leaving us now in a 5 versus 3. It's going to be up to Shaiko, Brede and Rafal inside of sight to try and hold on here. We've got Rafal trying to feed as much information as he can with the heartbeat scanner, but not picking up too much at the minute.
Just feel like, I don't want to say they're all doing their own thing here, but the 3 members of BDS are all holding off different angles and looking to do different things here, rather than, you know, potentially a flank play coming out or looking to stack up as pairs, for example. It's all very isolated. Like, Brede pushing down here, a bit of a late call coming into joining there and pushing in through Laundry, which means he loses his life needlessly. And that's how you can describe all 3 deaths in this round so far, is they were needless. Those players were isolated nowhere near the rest of their team, and Na'Vi are just picking them off for fun here, 1 at a time. Down goes another, and Shaiko has got to hold on, but he's got 5 HP. Saying that he's holding on with a dream and a prayer here, Tim, it's a bit more than that required.
In reality, yes, Rafal still alive at the minute, down but not out, will be finished off. Important to do so. You don't want to chase those kills, but whilst Rafal's alive, he is providing intel, he is providing information, he can see what's going on, he's a living camera at that point, so definitely best to put him down. Yak is going to find that diffuser, gets it down and activated. Shaiko shut down by Blur, and that is going to be Na'Vi taking their 3rd round out of 4, and it's starting to feel a little bit like they might have won this one in the map ban, Des, because BDS just are not competitive on the whole here on Villa.
I can't really place what it is about BDS, but the word that I have used a lot over the last few weeks is dynamic. They are not a dynamic team. Whenever something starts going wrong, you know, as you've seen in this last 4 rounds, really, they just sit static and they wait for the team to come to them to then start doing things. You'll never really find BDS getting out in the map and heavy roaming, getting aggressive. I want to say on Playday 2, I forget if it was on Clubhouse or somewhere else. It could have been maybe 3 as well. We saw them actually throwing themselves out windows and trying to go aggressive. And I was like, in fact, it was on Cafe. They were doing jump outs. They were getting aggressive. And I was like, great. We're finally seeing BDS being willing to get aggressive here and do things that might surprise the other team. It won't always work out, but at least they're trying and they're changing. And then I see games like today where they've kind of stepped back into being how they were before. And I'm just like, well, you know, where's that dynamic team gone that we saw a couple of Playdays ago? The one that can surprise people and be aggressive. It's just a bit too static at times, and that is when teams like Na'Vi would just go, okay, there's a guy here, he's not likely to move, let's pick him off, boys. 2 or 3, 3, 2, 1, bam, okay, he's gone. Next one, okay, he's over here, 3, 2, 1, bam, another one gone. They're just cherry picking players as and when they want, and it frustrates me because we all know how good BDS can be. We know how skilled all 5 of these individual players are, but you just don't see it in the gameplay itself, and that's really infuriating.
It is indeed, as you say, you know, watching them struggle week to week can be a frustration because they are one of the teams that, you know, as the EU region, we sort of pin our hopes on a little bit. We want to see them going into international tournaments and dominating, but it's just never really been the case for them. Here inside round 5, they are certainly struggling to dominate anything on Villa because Na'Vi are 3-1 up and looking pretty comfortable on the attack at the minute. It's going to be Aviator games once again, and to be honest with you, Des, this is the site that I feel like BDS have probably been the furthest from when it comes to defensive success. It was a struggle. They tried it round 1 and 2 and they just didn't really get anywhere with it. Ilems, he's changed over to Vigil instead of Jaeger and he's going to scurry off into base.
You've also got Shaiko on Malusi, Rafal on the Mozzie. I'm not saying I'm right, Tim, but they're clearly on the same sort of line of thinking here. Is, guys, we're being too static. We're letting them do what they want. They're getting the map control they want. Let's try and play a bit more aggressive. The problem is they're playing blind in that aggression. Alems has just ran headfirst into an open window and been picked off by Thunder there, who just stood and waited. So the fact that Na'Vi are they're like liquid here, right? When BDS are leaving a gap, they're rushing in to fill it. When BDS are trying to fill that gap, they're just staying around the outside and just saying, okay, then you want to try and run around, keep doing it. We'll catch you at some point. Really good little catch.
It's difficult because from Alem's perspective, you know, I can look at that now and say, you know, that's a mistake. It's over aggression. You don't need to be running towards an open window like that. But at the same time, you know, how do you get anything going if you don't? You know, how do you up that tempo? How do you know, put a bit of energy into your team, get a bit of spark going? You know, it takes a risk sometimes, and sometimes that siege timing will just be against you. And for Alem's, it just happens that somebody's having a look at that window. Thunder's there, he's ready as that peak comes in, and for right now for Na'Vi, they need to keep playing aggressively. They just need to keep up in BDS's face because everything just seems to be working in their favour at the minute.
Big time. I look back to like teams like Rogue and Wolves earlier who we watched play. If a player was on their own, they'd always have a teammate nearby they could fall back to and play as a pairing. That was very isolated. And admittedly, Vigil is a selfish operator. Everyone says it all the time. Not really a team contributing operator. Off doing his own thing. His gadget doesn't help anyone except himself. You've got to be getting kills. Absolutely that, Tim. And Alem so far has not been finding them. In fact, most of the team haven't. Even Shaiko, 1 and 3 so far, and there's Rafal out the window. So again, I like that we're seeing that aggression I remember seeing back on Cafe, which is where they are willing to go and challenge people and surprise them. Still, elsewhere, 2 kills will come back in towards Na'Vi. They're making it look easy, Tim.
That's beautiful from Blur. Absolutely beautiful. Just holding that tiny little pixel. Shaiko's head comes across. The reflexes are there and just hits his shot because his crosshair placement is just so good at that point. Playday, he's going to be trying to hold on inside a site here. Rafal does make his way back up the red stairs. He's going to be pushing into 90 corridor. He's going to be shut down. Simple as that. Again. As you say, Na'Vi are just good, Des. They're on top of everything. Yeah, he might push 90 corridor. We've got Nathan on an upside down rappel. It's absolutely fine. They've got every avenue, every angle is covered right now by Na'Vi. They are smothering BDS.
And it's one of those that probably 2 play days ago you never would have put your money on. Seeing Na'Vi, as you say, smother BDS, it's exactly what they're doing. 2 of those kills in that round, I feel bad because I've sat there and said about BDS, look, you're not being dynamic enough. You're not getting out and getting aggressive. They've had a Lems in the early round trying to rotate away from being droned or potentially being pinched on, runs into the waiting arms of Thunder. Late round, Rafal's tried to do the same down 90 to get a bit of a flank on, has then been shut down by Nath on the 90 window. Yeah, it's almost like Na'Vi are doing the fundamentals, like making sure they've got flank watch on the go, they're being prepared for aggression, they're droning and communicating. It's all looking good. And it's all good having those fundamentals, but you've also got to see a team that's willing to test those fundamentals on the other side. And we just aren't seeing that so far.
Not for the moment. The big question for BDS is going to come when the sides switch, I think. If they can get this round, fantastic, but a 5-1 half on the attack against Na'Vi would be catastrophic, quite frankly, for BDS as Na'Vi move on to the defence, and you've got to expect there's at least one site on this map that they can lock down on the defence, and that's all they need. Even if they lost every other round, they still win 7-5. They just need one site that they can win twice, and I think that will be the case looking at this Na'Vi side. So BDS need to keep fighting, need to do everything they can here, and that is step one, going to be getting a second round on the board.
I like the changes as well that Na'Vi have made, bringing along the Nomad here as well. We had it for the first couple of rounds, and now it's returned. I think in round 3 they were like, look, these boys aren't trying to flank us. Let's just forget about the Nomad and bring something else. They brought along the Zofia. We saw that in the last round, and now they've realised, okay then, after the timeout, BDS are now looking to get aggressive out on the flank, so let's bring along some flank watch here and have something to do with it. That's going to protect the Ossa. Nath, that they're really trying to put all of their eggs behind here and say, right, Nath, you're having a great game. Now go and sit on an operator that doesn't really gun, but you are going to be the centerpiece of our execute here. And I fully imagine you're going to see him coming in from top red, trying to push just inside of Statuary, getting the shield down and going for a plant behind it. That all coming through bedroom and try and get in that way instead.
Skiddy's looking to potentially push it into 90. Instead, he's going to move directly through into Study. May well find BDS member at the top of those red stairs with an opportunity to have a little gunfight if he's patient enough. There has been people moving around that area. They're a little bit deeper now. They've dropped themselves back into sight, more towards concrete, which is where you can see the Malusi of Shaiko at the minute, and then beyond deeper into the site. But Na'Vi staying patient here, Des, and I like that. You know, they've got themselves kills. They are on top of things here, but they're not getting carried away with it. They're still, you know, covering off the fundamentals, making sure that all boxes are ticked before they get aggressive.
Like I said to you earlier on, like, it's like liquid around BDS, right? They just let BDS fill whatever space they want, and then Na'Vi just play around the perimeter of that very sensibly. And here, they're taking it by the book, right? They're getting these air jabs down to make sure no one can push out onto them. They're getting a ton of drone work down inside the site itself. My only concern is Rafal is downstairs like he has been before. They know exactly what Na'Vi are trying to focus on here. They've seen all these drones coming in on the south side. They know where the pressure is coming in, and they'll be able to respond to that.
Ranshiro gets Blur to open things up. Good start for BDS. Only the second time that they've been able to get that entry kill. Will it be the second round that they're able to win? They really need to double down on this. They've got Shaiko playing aggressive up inside a mask. Look at him right on the windows there. He's just daring somebody to come and have a look, but Nath takes the dare and he doubles down, gets it done. The yellow ping, as you say, telling him that Shaiko is located there. It was an easy pre-fire, and if anything from BDS, that gives away a little bit of the advantage that they'd built. But look at the time, 40 seconds left to go, and not maybe enough progress from Na'Vi here. Still trying to get themselves established inside a site, but Nath, he pushes in with the shield, and he's going to try to get the diffuser down. It's not been cleared away by the impact.
And here we go, BDS trying to push his way around here, expects a challenge to come in, and it does come in at just the right time. They kill the planter, they get Skiddy, who's watching him off towards the side as well. Great bit of play, but now they've got to find the next couple. It should be an easy shutout here, but Thunder finds 2. Surely he can't find the last 2 here in the last 10 seconds, because he's got to get that diffuser ideally and get it back down on the ground, but can get pushed into it at a moment's notice here, Tim. There's one across inside a trophy. Sees the man, almost kills him, look towards the right, sees the man, but a Lems hits the shot. BDS end the half at 2 and 4. For Na'Vi, a very impressive showing. It
was a big ask for Thunder at the end there. He certainly gave it a good effort, but Playday made the play. You got to make the play or the play makes you, Des, as Demo likes to say, and that was very, very true there. Playday taking a risk, stepping himself up into Statuary, able to find that angle onto the Ossa of Nath. There was some explosives came in just in time to take that shield out as well. The cover from Statuary door wasn't sufficient to hold Playday off, and all combined just got Nath off that plant. Honestly, if that diffuser goes down, that's round over.
I agree. Yes. Completely agree. Yeah, it was I don't want to say fortunate timing, but it was good timing on BDS to respond in the way that they did. You could see that Playday was really wary of the player at top red, so was trying to kill him and then flick onto the planter, but I think he had a bit of support coming in from out towards Trophy as well to cut down Skiddy, which enabled the easy kill coming in onto Nath. Very close for Na'Vi, and could have been a 5-1 half. Do you want to touch again on another good bit of team play coming out from Na'Vi in terms of the drone coming in through the master bedroom drone hole, seeing Shaiko in the corner, yellow ping coming out, and I forget which player it was, but essentially rotating around to the window and just spraying onto Shaiko. It was one of the freest kills you're ever going to find. And really for Shaiko to be there at that stage in the round, maybe he felt he was pinned, didn't have a safe way back in towards site, but then the question comes, why are you there in the first place and giving up your life for free?
It was a very aggressive play. We'd seen him peek in the window a couple of times. He was just, as I said at the time, almost daring somebody to come and challenge him, but Nath certainly took that up and was more than happy to give it a go. Now then, Nath is going to be playing underneath on the mute this time around. We saw it from afar last time with the Nitro. It wasn't overly successful. Needs to keep himself alive down there. Alems was down in support as well, wasn't able to, was tracked down and killed a couple of times. So really, BDS need to learn the lesson from their own downfall. And go in and repeat that.
Oh, I like that. That's cheeky. Think about the number of times that you see plants come in behind there or here behind Vault Door. Like, normally it's a smoke, it's a flash, it's a run-in, hold down F as fast as you can. A good way to make someone scatter here is going to be those Razor Blooms. So keep a close eye on where the execute comes in from BDS, assuming, of course, they get to the point of execution.
Oh, it's definitely the way to use the Razor Blooms. You know, if you're thinking to maybe use them as an entry denial, like a goo mine, as that intel, the problem with them is that the detonation time is a little bit long for that. They are much more sort of efficient and built for area denial like that. Get them in a plant spot, get them in an angle that somebody's going to want to hold, it'll force them out.
They do have a Banshee, though, accompanying the one behind Map's table. The one that's maybe just inside the door, I don't think so. But the pairing could work out really well here. Depends how it goes. A nade trying to find Blur, but a little bit panicked there. Shaiko understandably wanted to get that nade out nice and quick. Whip it round the side as there's someone lurking nice and close. Blur sees the man, but then gets shot across from the other side. Again, a good bit of timing out of BDS to have the players in the right position. They've got 90, they've got top red, they've got the hallway, they've got everything they need. Now they've just got to find the kills on a plant.
BDS have only had the opening kill twice before this round. That makes 3. And the 2 rounds they won, Des, were the ones that they got the opening kill. Na'Vi need to find a way to win these rounds when they are at a man disadvantage. They're on defense this time, so it might be slightly different. But first, Toxic Babe canister will go out. 2 still in pocket for Thunder, so about another 20 seconds or so that he can deny, maybe slightly longer. He's going to try to hold on to them for as long as possible, but that is a good step from Na'Vi, from BDS rather. Getting that vault wall open just prevents the rotation from site to site.
They are so terrified about a flank coming up here as well. They're just holding every possible side angle they can, whilst Na'Vi just sit and sweat, waiting for when this execute comes through. A great smoke place in there might do a little bit of a chunk of damage. In fact, no, backing away just in the nick of time. Won't do much. And Thunder, with that shotgun in hand, is just daring them to come in close.
Just waiting for the angle that could potentially come through that vault breach. Nath's going to take a chunk of damage. 15 seconds left to go. BDS 5v4. Playday looking to get in and get the diffuser down. Skiddy finds Alems. It was the Razor Bloom that forced Playday away, but he's back in position now and getting the diffuser down. Shaiko wins an important fight, and is this the point where Shaiko starts to turn things around? Maybe not. 2v2, 1v2, as we've got Thunder down at the minute. There could be an opportunity. No! There is no chance to pick him up, and it's going to be Shaiko with the final kill of the man who is down, but one apiece for the remaining BDS players, and that is going to be round number 7 going to them. 4-3 now.
Renshiro had such a big part there as well. I want to say it was Renshiro, maybe it was Rafal, who was holding out top red, just kind of covering the plank coming in from Study, because Na'Vi had that player come like thundering in from Study side and get the kill onto, I want to say it was Shaiko, and I was just like, oh no, is this where it all falls apart? But no, instantly there with the trade back, keeps the planter alive, they get the diffuser down, and the round is pretty much settled from there once you're in that 2 versus 2. So really well execute coming out from BDS. Na'Vi, it's far from the end of the world yet, but you've got to be so careful here that you don't let BDS back into this game, because once that momentum builds up, they're going to be really hard to slow down.
Very quiet game for Shaiko so far. One of the players that was picked up on coming into this, and his ability to gun and keep his team on top. Only 2 kills inside of 7 rounds so far, and that is one of the big questions. How do BDS function when they can't rely on Shaiko for those big numbers? And, you know, this is the answer. It can be a struggle for them sometimes, and they need to make sure that somebody somebody's stepping up and doing the business in his place.
We spoke about this a lot back at SI when we looked at how well TSM played. It was like, oh, they've got this formula of these front three players backed up by two others. And I remember saying at the time, you're seeing kind of a mini TSM in the making in the form of M&M, where they had their really solid front three, where if one of them was quiet, a wonderful example, I'm going to use his Tyrant at the minute. This stage, he is pretty quiet. Pretty sure he's gone negative so far, which is surprising for him. We know just how terrifying he used to be on the Iana. But in his absence, you've got users going nuclear. Solostrov's dropped 19 plus kills today. So even when one player's offline, you've always got someone else to step into your shoes and drag the team through. Who have BDS got?
Exactly. At the minute, there's nobody really stepping up in the same way. You would expect, you know, we know that Elems is a gunner. We know that he's an absolute gunner.
All 5 players have got great capability.
They've all got the capability to do it.
They're not Shaiko.
They're not delivering it. That's the problem. Right now, Shaiko has got himself onto the Finker, of course, last round and this round, so maybe he can turn that round a little bit. At the minute, he's going to be pushing on towards Study. He's going to open up that wall and just look to take that top floor control. They are attacking onto Dining and Kitchen. Elems with an interesting little angle up from the basement there.
Can't be too cheeky down in the basement, can you? Normally that would be a Nox job, but she is indeed banned away. So instead turning tail towards the buck and seeing what they can do from there. Elemzo wants to try and work his way up red stairs and just put a bit of challenge on the go. But Nathan is pulsive. He's got the scan in the right spot. We'll no doubt have seen him at the bottom of red. So that's one thing to be considering there, is that his position may well be known. You got Shaiko top red. You got Brede working his way across. Very much the start on the top floor, as you'd come to expect for a kitchen dining takes. They can establish that vertical control is exactly where things are kicking off. Skiddy, though, out of seemingly nowhere, hits the deck.
He is going to be down. There might be an opportunity to pick him up, but I'm sure his teammate is over there with him, is going to be very cautious about doing so. I think we're just sort of crouching on the Astro stairs at the minute, wanting to keep himself out a bit. Elem's finding some bang for his buck there as he manages to get the kill underneath. Gets himself what could effectively be a second. Yak there with the immediate trade, but still not a bad play from Elem. Shaiko going for the man on Astro stairs before he goes for the down man who's actually already been finished off. Shaiko managing to get Yak, then Brede gets one along the way as well, and all of a sudden it's a 4v2.
Oh boy, Na'Vi, you might find yourself starting to let this game slip away here. C4 coming out from Nathan, not finding the man. A 3 versus 2 for BDS, although Na'Vi starting to see that 6th man coming on side here with the clock as we get towards that last 30 seconds. This is where BDS have got to get everything absolutely right, because whilst Brede's holding down that plant button, it's technically a 2 versus 2. Shaiko gets the man that he needs, though. Nath is left all alone. I think we know how this one ends, Tim.
25 seconds left to go, Nath. He's trying to get anything going that he can. We've seen a 1v3 already. We won't today, though, as they are shut down, and Nath, he's going to get taken out by Brede. And that is BDS levelling things up 4-4, and they have just woken up on the attack.
They have just a bit, haven't they? Yeah, I mean, even with Na'Vi with a good pinch play onto Elems at the bottom of Astro, they still lose a man. You're still losing 2 more to Shaiko and Brede in the mid-round. Things are just kind of crumbling once it actually comes down to the guns being pointed at the opposition. Understandably, Na'Vi calling a timeout here. They've only had a couple of rounds on this side of the map, but can very clearly see this is not going the way that they need it to, and now is the time to course correct. We'll never, ever bemoan a team for calling a tactical timeout after 2 or 3 rounds of their half where things are going badly. Sooner now than when it's 6-4 and you've got a long hill to climb.
3 rounds in a row. 3 rounds in a row for BDS. They're not the sort of team that you want to have momentum. Interestingly, both teams taking the tactical timeouts now, so there will be no more remaining. It sort of feels rare that we get games where both teams do take those tactical timeouts.
You tend to get the more competitive
in the competitive tighter games, it just quite often feels like at least one of them waits right till the end of the game. But this time, both quite early within the first 8 rounds. Round 9 we will be coming up to now. And that leaves Na'Vi sort of scratching the head, really, scrambling for ideas. Nothing has worked on the defence for them so far. And, well, quite frankly, it needs to start doing it. It needs to start doing soon.
Absolutely. Well, trophy and Thatcher we head to after that little tactical timeout. Na'Vi clearly with a plan in mind. That Thatcher being Kaid being brought along the same way that BDS did back in the first half, where they electrified all 3 walls, reinforced every single one of them off as well, of course. That IQ being on side for Rafal, if it sticks, I imagine will be then used to get below, find out where those electricals are, get them shot out, and march the team forwards from there.
Yak just going to be reinforcing down the wall there in
There's the changes.
Laundry. There is the changes, as you say. The Thatcher and the Sophia now being brought along. That should be all the utility that BDS need. Thunder just deploying the shield there. It's a corner that's often played inside of Astro, but one you've got to be careful with because it really is prime for a vertical nade. All you need to do is get yourself into the corridor at the bottom of Astro stairs, and basically anywhere above you is going to give you some joy in there. So it's an area of the map that you need to be cautious of. You need to sort of almost keep it in possession to make sure that player in the corner is safe.
It's again just the work that comes in as a team, right? Even with the Sophia below, just getting to pop a couple of impacts, shields gone, players dead, like GG, having an absolutely wonderful time if you can get him out of Astro, because it does unlock the rest of the team to then push through from bathroom side, from master side, really start to encircle the defenders with a bit of support coming in from the Astro window as well. So that looks like it's going to be the game plan. Shaiko's already got himself inside of the closet here, starting to work his way forward, supported by a couple of other BDS players out here on master balcony.
You just feel like it's prime now for BDS, for one of their players to really step up. Could be Shaiko, could be one of the others, just to step up and get a couple of important early kills. But the important early kill is going to come to Nath as he takes down Elems with the shotgun, leaving them 5v4. Out comes the Toxic Babe canister. Smart use there. It's not always about denying plants. Sometimes it's about denying a lane of aggression, a pathway into sight or into a critical position. And Thunder just felt it was time to take the edge off that push that was coming from Shaiko.
I'm all for it being a play style, by the way, but like Shaiko swinging down towards a shield is always a massive risk. They pop up and pop you in the head, you're dead. If you're confident you can win gunfights and you're like 10 and 1 on the day, go for it, my son. But you're 4 and 6. You haven't really been flying, so again, just a bit more restraint. Team play would be absolutely wonderful. Nate going down a freebie onto Nate there as he comes up from below. Shaiko tries to step forward, but is stepping in completely blind there, very isolated. And I compare BDS to our other top 4 teams like Rogue and Wolves at the minute and how they're coordinating team play. And some of these executes just feel so messy, Tim.
They do, like you say, they do. There's just sort of, you know, faltering too much. It's, you know, they'll start pushing and then it stops, and only 1 or 2 go, 1 or 2 don't, and it just all feels a little bit sort of fragmented. Is probably the word. Playday is going to be joined by Rafal momentarily. He actually decides to push back away. Playday finding a beauty onto Thunder. They know that there's one at the bottom of Astro stairs as well. Yak is going to make his way back to the red stairs to try and push himself back up to sight. Skinny is on that side as well, but Ranchiro manages to cut him down in a crossfire, and Yak is going to be the final one. He gets 1 kill, but the difficulty is now that they know where he is. Playday able to start putting this diffuser down. He's got the cover from Ranchiro. No way he can get in and do anything about it, and that is a well-placed challenge from the last men of BDS.
And then a good one from Kayak as well, to be fair. They're acknowledging, okay, the plant's going down. I said this earlier on. When that man's holding down F, you are temporarily down a man. So he knows in that gunfight it's a 1 versus 1. He wins that. Playday's got no choice but to pull off the diffuser and take a fight against you as well. If you wait and let that diffuser go down, Playday pulls back out and towards master balcony. Ranchiro takes a tight angle. You're basically screwed then trying to push in against 2 players. So I don't demean Yak for going for that play. He was sort of forced to there. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. The BDS, again, they just keep on pulling ahead, Tim. That's 4 on the bounce now they've won. 4
in a row. It was 4-1 to Na'Vi, let's not forget. So you start asking the mentality questions of Na'Vi now. What is, you know, what's your perseverance like? What's your resilience like? How are you able to keep fighting back from this? You've lost round after round. You're now behind. It's the first time that we've seen BDS ahead in this game. They didn't take the first round and they were behind ever since. And now on the attack, they find themselves unbeaten and ahead. If they get this one, it is a match point opportunity that will follow. We're back in Aviator games that we saw in round 7. BDS won it. Ranchiro able to get the opener onto Blur. Playday got the plant down. It was all BDS on this site last time.
Was. And let's see if it plays out the same way once again. No matter which way you look at it, we can sit here and say all BDS quite peak heavy, not 100% playing as a team at every single opportunity they get, having to kind of strong arm their way through. They still got 4 rounds on the board, and maybe that's the opponents they're against. I don't know what it might be, but whichever way you look at it, they are in a spot here to be able to potentially come back and win this. Going from, you know, the horrible scoreline they were at earlier on of being 4-1 down to now being 5-4 up. That's one hell of a mountain they've climbed.
Really is, Nath. Playing, again, quite aggressively there. He's just stepping out underneath that default cam. He knows that the push is potentially going to come from main door as it has been opened and the default shot out, but there's just an opportunity for him to get a little peek out on Ranchiro here if he takes the risk. I don't think any claymores have been put down or anything. There could be a chance, but he's a little bit high up now. He's got himself himself out of the way, so should be safe. Nath is going to scarper back into the map. I don't know if he even told the line of the doorway there, just to try and maybe put the pressure on Renshiro, but one way or another, he's moved away, and that is a good spot of a Valkyrie camera in behind the statue.
Tim Talk.
Well, it's a good spot from the drone as well. Yeah, I do. I absolutely love a well-placed Valk cam. I'll quite happily spend time in customs just running around maps, seeing where, you know, the little hidey holes can be.
Here they go, opening up the single wall as well down towards red. Gives them a nice clean angle all the way down so no one can flank them up on red stairs. Shaiko again getting a little bit cheeky here, but equally the same could be said about Na'Vi, looking to challenge straight onto him. You know, I'm sure that in some parts of the world they'd be saying, oh, why peek? You know, why swing everything? It does feel like a very European thing, but both teams feel very happy trying to compete with each other when it comes around to that raw gun skill. For now, at least, though, no blows exchanged, no HP lost outside of Yak. It's still looking pretty peachy for both sides.
BDS now in position to start thinking about that map-sided push. They've got themselves trophy and statuary. They can move out into corridor, take top of red stairs. Blur is looking to get himself potentially back towards the bottom of main stairs, but he's not keen to go up them yet. He wants to be able to challenge onto anybody underneath. It's Lems at the minute who's working for vertical nades, but I'm not sure he will have been spotted out by the drone. There was nobody on it at the point where it was shot, but it seems like there's a little bit of information. The thing is, you don't necessarily need to be seen on a drone. Just by the fact that that drone has disappeared, it tells you that somebody's in that area. So we can see Lems just sending out the Gemini decoy there to just have a little look and see if he can find the man that's possibly underneath.
Before he used it, Playday was on a drone at his feet as well, but then stopped once he got to the door and left the Lems to sort of do his own thing. And I understand he's got to help elsewhere, but I thought if you want a lot of control downstairs, surely that's the play to make. And because he's not being challenged by a Lems, gets a free C4. Thunder into the second. A Lems finally getting a kill back on the other side, but is it too little too late, Tim?
There's a lot of work to be done here from BDS. 3 versus 4, not inside of sight. 10 seconds left to go. Lems can push up the main stairs. Cannot find Nath, though, who wins out the gunfight. Gets himself a second kill of the round. Yak headshot onto Playday. Shut down from Yak onto Rafal. And that is going to be Na'Vi leveling things up and guaranteeing us at least 12 rounds of what is turning into be a real tense affair.
Tim, do you remember when we were on the playground when we were younger? I know it's going back a good number of years for you.
Going back a lot longer for me than you.
You used to have, I can't remember what the game was called, where someone stood at the front of the playground facing...
Where you had like a metal stick and a hoop and you just knocked the hoop along the floor?
No, Tim. Where you stood looking away from everyone else who's behind you, and their goal is to touch you, but they can't move when they turn around, right? It's red light, green light, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
I feel like BDS have just played that in that round without any threat of red light. They were kind of like getting towards like trophy statuary, small steps forward, now pause, everyone on drones. Even downstairs, they stopped moving. Everyone's back on drones again. But not everyone kind of was on drones. Some would have stood there waiting for others to move forward. Then they step forward another 2 or 3 steps. Then it's pause again. Some more drone work. Maybe Lems is fishing around downstairs to see what's going on. And I was kind of like, you know, you're almost kind of building this attack as you're going, but it's a really slow bit. It's like watching a 3D printer put layers on top of a building. It's just so slow that when it came around to the execute itself, Na'Vi were like, okay, now you're close enough, bam! I'm springing the trap, you're now caught out in our web. Unlucky, I guess, and Nath walks away with a 2K. It's just a little bit too slow, and I don't want to say control, because control is a good word, a good thing to be. It's good to be controlled, but a little bit too slow, a little bit too conservative maybe is a better word. And again, I'd like to see them let the handle fly a little bit. Keep Playday on the drone at Lems' feet and let him march forward. Let him take the 1v1 against Nath off the back of that information. Yet you're leaving him to do it entirely by himself. Nath is getting a free C4, and you're asking questions, okay, now what, boys? You've got to control downstairs, you've got to push in towards site with 20 seconds to go. You're out of time because you've been so slow and conservative throughout the round itself.
Renshiro just on the drones for others before starting to head in. As you say, they just need to pick up the pace on the attacking pushes a little bit, make sure it's a little bit more fluid rather than that halting style that you're talking about. Na'Vi did well last time around to get themselves a couple of kills, hang on, but mentally it could be a really big moment for them because it's going to just break that momentum of BDS. But that being said, Des, they've taken a little bit of a gamble. We've seen them go into living room and library this time, and it's not a defensive site that we often see picked up, but I tell you what, Nath, he's ready for it. He's going to find that opening kill onto Shaiko, whose difficult day continues here. 5 and 9, he finds himself shut down in yet another round.
I mean, it's not the Nath show today. It's not the Shaiko show today. It's definitely the Nath show. 9 and 5 so far. Others around him also putting up good numbers. But when Nath has sprung up, you've known he's there. Whether it's that 3K back in round 1, the 3K in round 4, plus the flawless round overall for Na'Vi. It's just beautiful stuff to watch, and it continues. Rafał unlucky, I guess. Rafał being here on the Amaru as well. Like, normally for this site, you're looking to get up the hatch from below. So getting control of downstairs is kind of port number 1. The problem is, you got Skitty looking to get down there as well and challenge you, assuming that's going to be your game plan.
Skitty, as you say, down in the basement, could be challenged by Rafał, or could well find Rafał. I think they know that Skitty's playing over that side of the basement. Default cam taken down. The Amaru is still on the hunt, but Skitty's not really under any time pressure here. He can just hold his angle and wait for Rafał to potentially push through. It's a little bit of a standoff at the minute, but really, there's only ever going to be one winner there, and that is the defender of Na'Vi, because the time is ticking in his favour.
It's like I say, they're just kind of taking a step forward, pause, step forward, pause, time and time and time again, back on drones, off drones, not 100% sure of what it is they're trying to achieve in good time as well. Like, very clearly they know what the game plan is here, and they've got that vertical angle. They should know there's a player there. Can't quite hit in those. Lems takes a couple of shots, and you saw him barking commands there to his team for a second as they understand exactly what's going on, but they've left it to the last 30. Here comes the move, and the timing from Skitty! There was no drone coming down. The diffuser's in basement, it's panic stations, and BDS again have been stung by the red lights.
It's round lost. That is as simple as I can make it. Skitty is not going to come back up. These are meaningless skills from Lems. He's just going to try to get anything going that he can. Finds himself 2, 7 seconds. Diffuser down in basement. Maybe gets a third. Does take chips off him, but there is no way that he comes back and wins this round. Yak finishes things off, but Skitty is the man of the round there. Unbelievable patience on the Malusi, just waiting for his moment. Just the conviction that he was right. Just the fact that he knew that he had somebody down there with him, and he was just waiting for Rafał to give himself away, and that's what he did. As soon as that Gara hook comes out, there is no way that he can challenge onto the Malusi, who just steps out and says, thank you for round number 11.
He's just slipped through the net, hasn't he, and got himself into a really critical spot and held it. And the painful thing is, Rafał was holding that angle for so long, expecting it. They had flank drones on red stairs. They had flank drones on the bottom stairs towards the north side as well. Yeah, BDS were prepared for something like this. But when you've got everything invested in the diffuser being downstairs, on the Amaru being able to get through hatch, you've really got to give more support. That's got to be droned out as well. But the only drones I feel like I'm really seeing moving around during the map a lot and getting into these critical locations are Bredays. Yeah, for other parts in the round where they're sort of sat waiting, I'm like, well, what are the rest of you really doing? It's standing and waiting for the go sign from, I assume, a Lems to make that call. It just, again, feels very slow and static, and Na'Vi are almost reading into it like a book.
I can only imagine, and it potentially be an interesting question should we have Na'Vi on the interview days, that the Amaru's been spotted at some point.
Yeah.
And there's just been an opportunity there where Na'Vi have actually just read BDS like a book and thought, they brought the Amaru, there's a hatch that leads up into sight, he'll probably have the diffuser and try to just pop up there and get a plant down.
Well, Tim, you'll be delighted to know. I'll happily ask that question for you.
It'd be interesting to know whether it is something that they've read into, or whether he just basically got lucky that it was an Amaru with diffuser, or was it actually, we've recognised this operator and that's probably what they're going to be playing for.
Absolutely. Just one of those that for BDS, I feel like you've seen it a million times as well. I remember it was probably, early last year they played against, at the time, Vitality, obviously now changed over to Wolves, but they played them on the first day on this map and got hit hard by a Living Library defense. The next day they come back and they've got this Amaru strat that they rock out and just wipe the floor with Vitality. They just had no idea it was coming. It was really great innovation to see coming out of BDS. Not a line of feel I've said for a long time, but back at the time it was quite innovative. And I think here Na'Vi have just gone, look, we know what these boys do on this site. We've got our own hold for it. We know how to play it. Let's engineer ourselves ready for that. And like you say, I'll be really curious to know if they just knew that was the expectation and had a counter prepped and ready to go.
You can see Na'Vi just continuing to contest this triple wall, not wanting to give it up. They lose some pellets from underneath. There's a player playing down there who's going to be shooting them off, just using explosives. You can see the next one being lined up. There you go. That's the second. I don't think it was a C4. I want to say that
I think it was Yak C4.
Very possibly.
Yeah, it was,
Yak downstairs. I mean, that's a high cost to keep X-Kairos pellets off the wall, given how many of them there are. There's still 10 left there. Nades are going to go over and get sucked up by those Wamai magnets, but there is still an impact left on the side of Blur as well. So there's the possibility to actually get rid of more here.
I love this as well. Another one coming over the top here. Do they get rid of some more of those? How many Hexaris are left? They've got 6. That's not enough. Well, it is enough to get an almost full opening, but you have to do that weird kind of like, I don't know, shape. That's all I can really describe.
Shooting him off. They're shooting him off.
Like what? Who's on the downstairs? I think someone's now downstairs, but Skiddy finds Shaiko anyway. They've gone through nades, they've gone through EMPs, they've gone through everything, and they cannot get this wall open.
Honestly, I think Yak's just won the round there. I think Yak's just won the round and the match because he's just played underneath. He's taken about 12 or 14 of those Hexaris pellets off the wall, using explosives, using his gun. BDS have done nothing to stop them. As you saw, Shaiko just sort of breezing over the top of it, trying to get a view down, but just nothing direct enough to stop Yak doing that. However, they may well... No, Playday, no! He comes out of ADS at just the wrong time. Yak finds the kill and leaves them now in a 3v2. BDS, they've got to get something going. The diffuser's down. Rafal is low health, as is Renshiro. This is not going to be easy. 10 seconds left to go. Na'Vi, they just need to hang on here. Rafal, he's going in for the plant. 6 seconds. I'm not sure if Na'Vi know or not. Yes, they do. Blur and Nate step up. They get the kills. They close it out. And that is going to be a big win for Na'Vi.
It just felt that entire half like Na'Vi have seen this a million times before. They just knew what to do in every single round, and no matter what BDS threw at them, Na'Vi were just ready. BDS played into their hands there, no issue at all on the Na'Vi side, and I know it came close, but again, you are still against a pretty good team, but for Na'Vi, that is a massive 3 points to steal and keeps them in conversation for the major. I come back to that concern of, though, they are against some very big teams in future weeks.
They are, but do they come, you know, on paper bigger than BDS? I know BDS haven't been great this stage, but they should be one of the biggest teams of the league, and Na'Vi are doing it. And like you say, the real significance of that win is the fact that BDS are one of the teams that could be fighting for a 3rd or 4th place playoff spot, and those are the ones Na'Vi are going after in reality.
They are. It's just one of those games that I look at and just think, oh boy, Na'Vi just keep on throwing curveballs, and BDS, sadly, just not showing that dynamic play that we really need to see from what we know of 5 very skilled players, but just can't quite pull it together on some of these days. Villa remains a curse for BDS, and for Na'Vi, a turnaround from Playday 1. We'll go over to the desk, and I'll join them in a minute as well to wrap up the day and talk about this game.